The night was colder than usual. Thin winds cut through the empty streets and the lights of the alien city shone like sharp glass. Outside a tall building with glowing symbols stood a weak figure. It was a girl, small and fragile, her skin pale under the alien moon. She coughed softly, trying to move, but her strength was gone. She had been pushed outside, left to freeze. The tall building was not an inn or shelter. It was a medical clinic, a place where alien doctors worked, but they had refused her. They said she was too weak, too costly, and not worth the effort. They closed the doors, leaving her on the stone steps. Passers-by looked at her but quickly turned away. Some shook their heads. Some whispered to each other. But none stopped. In this city, abandoned ones were a common sight. If doctors gave up, then it meant there was no hope, at least that's what the people believed. The girl's breath came in shallow gasps. Her arms wrapped around herself, trying to find warmth. She blinked slowly, her vision blurred. The world around her was cruel and uncaring, and she was just another forgotten life fading in the night. Then footsteps stopped near her. It was a human. A tall man in a simple coat carrying a small bag of tools. He had been walking home after a long day of work. His eyes fell on her and he froze. At first he thought she was already gone, but then he saw her chest rise, weak and trembling. She was alive, barely. His heart tightened. He looked at the glowing sign above the clinic door and then at the girl. He could not understand. Why would doctors leave someone outside like this? Why would no one care? He bent down, his shadow covering her fragile body. "Hey," he whispered softly, though he knew she might not answer. "Can you hear me?" The girl's lips moved. No sound came out. Her eyes fluttered weakly, catching the faint light. She was trying to hold on, but she was almost gone. The man looked around. People were still passing by, but they acted as if nothing was happening. Some glanced at him and shook their heads, silently telling him to walk away. But he could not. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted her. She was so light, as if bones and skin were all that was left. She gave a faint whimper, but she did not resist. For her, even breathing was hard. The man pushed the clinic door, but it was locked. He knocked hard. A moment later, a metal window slid open. An alien doctor peered out, his face stern. "She needs help," the human said quickly. "She's alive. Please treat her," the doctor sighed. His voice was cold, practiced. "She was already seen. Nothing can be done." "Leave her." The man's eyes widened. "Leave her? She's breathing. You can't just—" "She was diagnosed. She is not worth the resources," the doctor interrupted, then shut the window with a loud snap. The human stood frozen for a second, anger burning in his chest. Worth the resources? What kind of world decided who lived and who died based on cost? The girl's head rested against his shoulder. Her breath was warm, faint, but real. He looked down at her fragile face, and something inside him decided he would not leave her here. But where could he take her? No hospital would accept her. No clinic would risk trouble by treating someone the doctors had abandoned. His mind raced. And then he remembered something unusual. Just 2 blocks away, there was a small vet clinic. It was meant for animals, not for people, but the vet had tools, medicine, and knowledge. More than anything, he had a heart. The man adjusted his grip and started walking quickly, ignoring the strange stares of those around him. The city lights blurred past as he carried the girl through narrow streets. Each step felt heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the choice he was making. He was breaking an unspoken rule. He was fighting against what everyone else had accepted. The girl stirred slightly. Her hand, cold and fragile, clutched at his coat as if begging him not to let go. The human tightened his arms around her. "Don't worry," he murmured. "I'm not leaving you. Not tonight." Behind them, the clinic door stayed shut. Inside, the doctors went back to their work, uncaring. But in the quiet streets, one human moved against the flow. He carried a dying alien girl not to a hospital, but to a place no one else would ever think of, a vet's clinic. And in that single act, a story began. A story that would shake the hearts of aliens who thought they understood humans, but never truly did. The night was still cold, the wind still sharp, but the girl was no longer alone. The small vet clinic stood at the corner of a quiet street. Its sign flickered, half-broken, glowing faint blue in the night. Inside, shelves were stacked with bottles and strange machines. The place smelled of herbs, medicine, and faint traces of fur. It was not made for people. It was made for animals. The human pushed open the glass door with his shoulder, still holding the alien girl in his arms. A small bell above the door chimed. The sound echoed in the stillness. Behind a counter, the vet looked up. He was an alien, tall, with folded ears and long silver hands. His face hardened as soon as he saw the girl. His voice came sharp, almost defensive. "This clinic is for beasts," he said. "Not for her." The human did not move back. His jaw tightened and he stepped closer. "She's dying," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "You treat life, don't you? Then treat hers." The vet's eyes narrowed. He came out from behind the counter, his white coat brushing the floor. "Do you understand what you ask? This is forbidden. She was refused by doctors. That means she is marked. If I interfere, they can shut me down. They can take my license. They can take everything." The girl coughed, a wet and painful sound. The human lowered her gently onto a chair, refusing to let fear stop him. He looked at the vet directly, his eyes burning. "If you let her die, then what is the point of your work? Animals, aliens, humans, it's all life. Doesn't that matter?" The vet stared at him for a long time. His silver hands trembled slightly. He remembered the faces of creatures he had saved. Injured birds, wounded pets, even a broken horse once. He remembered how their eyes shone with gratitude after healing. And now here was a girl, shivering, gasping, abandoned. His heart battled against his fear. "If I do this," he whispered, "I break the law." "If you don't," the human replied coldly, "she dies right here in front of you." The room fell silent, except for the sound of the girl's shallow breathing. At last, the vet turned away sharply. "Bring her to the back." The human lifted her again, following quickly. They entered a room with bright lamps and a wide metal table. Machines hummed softly. The vet pulled on gloves, his hands moving with practiced speed now that the decision was made. "Lay her down," the vet ordered. The human obeyed, placing the girl gently on the table. Her skin was pale, her chest rising and falling with effort. She looked so fragile it seemed the light itself might break her. The vet placed a small device near her chest. A screen blinked and filled with strange symbols. His eyes widened. "Her organs are failing. She has no strength left. If she were an animal, I'd say she has only hours." The human leaned forward. "Then save her." The vet shot him a sharp look. "You think it's that simple? She carries a rare sickness. Expensive to treat. Dangerous, they say. That's why doctors refused her." "Is it truly dangerous?" the human pressed, "or just difficult?" The vet hesitated. His ears twitched. "Difficult," he admitted softly. "Not impossible." The human placed both hands on the table, his voice firm. "Then do it. I'll help. Whatever it takes." The vet studied him again. Most aliens would have left. Most would not risk trouble for a stranger. But this human, his eyes did not waver. They were stubborn, fierce, almost reckless, and that stubbornness burned brighter than any fear. "Very well," the vet said finally, "but you stay. If she crashes, I may need your hands. Don't faint on me." The human gave a short nod. "I won't." The vet moved quickly now. He placed tubes, injected medicine, set up machines to pump oxygen into her fragile lungs. The human fetched water, prepared bandages, followed every instruction without question. Hours seemed to stretch. The night outside grew colder, but inside, sweat formed on the human's brow as he worked beside the vet. He refused to leave her side. Every time her breathing slowed, his chest tightened with fear. Every time the machine beeped steady again, hope returned. Finally, as dawn's first light touched the window, something changed. The girl opened her eyes. Only a crack, but enough. Her lips parted and a faint whisper came out. It was only one word. "Why?" The human bent close, his throat dry.
"Why what?"
he asked gently. Her gaze was weak but searching. "Why, help me." For a moment, the human did not know what to say. He looked at the vet, who also paused, listening. Then the human spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "Because no one else would." The girl blinked slowly, a tear forming at the corner of her eye. Then her lids closed again, but this time not in weakness. She slept, her breathing steadier than before. The vet straightened, pulling off his gloves. His silver hands trembled from exhaustion. He looked at the human with a strange mix of disbelief and respect. "You are mad," he said softly. "But perhaps the kind of mad this world needs." The human did not answer. He just sat beside the table, keeping watch. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that inside a small vet clinic, a forbidden miracle had begun. Morning light spilled across the city, washing away the shadows of night. The vet clinic looked quiet from the outside, its cracked sign blinking weakly as people hurried past on their way to work. But inside, something had happened that the streets would not forget. A human had carried an abandoned alien girl into a place made for animals, and against all rules, the vet had treated her. By noon, the whispers had begun. Two merchants spoke in hushed voices near the market square. "Did you hear?" one asked, leaning close. The human dragged a dying girl to a vet, the other laughed. "A vet for beasts? Ridiculous. What can he do?" "Still," the first one murmured, lowering his tone. "They say the girl lives." At a tea shop, a group of old aliens muttered as they sipped their steaming cups. "He broke the rule," one said sharply. "He is just a human," another replied. "What do they know of our laws?" "But he did what our own kind would not." The words spread faster than smoke in the wind, and some mocked him. They shook their heads, amused. Humans are simple. They think kindness can cure death. Others grew angry. They clenched their fists. He should be punished. If doctors rejected her, then it was decided. Who is he to interfere? But not all voices were cruel. In corners and quiet places, softer whispers carried a different note. "Why did he do it?" some asked. "Would you have done the same?" Others answered with silence. The story of the human reached even the doctors at the tall clinic. They frowned when they heard. One of them spat in disgust. "He risks disease spreading. He risks law, stupid." Another doctor paused, thoughtful. "And yet, he risked all that for her. Would you?" The first turned away, unable to answer. Meanwhile, inside the small clinic, the human did not hear the city's whispers. He sat on a wooden chair near the table where the alien girl rested. Her chest rose and fell slowly, steadier now. Her skin, once pale as frost, had regained a faint glow. The vet cleaned instruments nearby, his silver hands moving with care. Every so often, he glanced at the human. His eyes carried confusion, almost disbelief. "You should leave her here," the vet finally said. "If officials come, it will be trouble." The human shook his head. "If they come, I'll be here." The vet sighed. "Do you not fear them?" "Fear?" The human leaned forward, his hands clasped. "I fear only one thing, that she dies because no one cared." The vet did not reply. He looked down at the girl. She looked so small on the metal table, wrapped in a thin blanket. Yet somehow there was strength in her fragile form. Outside, the gossip grew bolder. People came near the clinic just to peek through the windows. Children whispered, pointing at the door. Neighbors shook their heads, warning each other to stay away. "That place is cursed now," they muttered. The human defied the doctors, but still some lingered. Curiosity was stronger than fear. One evening, a group of workers gathered near the street corner. "Do you think she'll live?" one asked. Another shrugged. "If she does, it will shame us all." We walked past her. He did not. The words stung, and though spoken softly, they began to weigh on the hearts of many. Inside the clinic, the girl stirred. Her eyes opened just a little. The human leaned close, his voice calm. "You're safe," he whispered. She blinked, her lips trembling. For the first time, she gave a weak smile before drifting back into sleep. The vet noticed it too. He set down his tools and crossed his arms. "She trusts you," he said quietly. The human looked down at her. "Maybe she shouldn't," he replied. "I'm no doctor, but you're here," the vet said. "Sometimes that is enough." The night fell again, and the city buzzed with more rumors. Some said the girl was improving. Some said she was cursed and would bring doom. But the truth was simple. A human had refused to let go. And in the dark, on the edges of the city, officials began to take notice. Their sharp eyes watched the crowd outside the vet's clinic. They listened to the whispers. They did not like what they heard. A story like this could spread further. A human showing courage where others showed none. It unsettled them. By the third day, the whispers had grown into arguments in the street. He saved her life. He broke the law. He showed more heart than any of us. He should be punished. The city was divided, but all agreed on one thing. The human was different. And as the alien girl breathed easier each passing hour, the question spread from mouth to mouth, echoing in the hearts of many who once turned away. Why did the human care when no one else did? The third night was the hardest. The girl tossed and turned in her sleep, caught between pain and fever. The human sat by her side, changing the wet cloth on her forehead again and again. The vet worked in silence, checking the machines, adjusting the tubes. Both were exhausted, but neither dared to stop. At last, near dawn, her eyes opened. This time they stayed open. She looked around the room at the strange lights, the metal table, the humans sitting so close. For the first time, her voice came clear, though faint. "Why, did you not leave me?" she asked. The human leaned closer. His voice was soft but firm. "Because no one else would stay." Her lips trembled. She closed her eyes again, but not to sleep, only to gather strength. When she opened them, tears were shining there. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They left me because of what I carry." The human frowned. "What you carry?" The vet stepped closer, listening carefully. His silver hands folded across his chest. He had wondered the same thing. The girl struggled to sit up. The human helped, steadying her with a pillow. She took a deep breath. "I was born with an illness, rare, expensive. No one wants to treat it. They call it the slow burn. It eats the body little by little." The human's eyes narrowed. "But you're not dangerous." She shook her head weakly. "No, not to anyone else. Only to myself. But the cure, it costs more than most can pay. So the doctors look, they see the mark of my sickness and they throw me away. To them I'm not worth the trouble." The vet's ears lowered. He whispered, "I have heard of it. But I thought it was only in the rich cities." "It was," the girl said bitterly, "until I was born with it here. My family tried. They sold everything to pay for treatments. But it was never enough. In the end, they were gone. And I was alone. When I collapsed on the street, the clinic took me in for one night. But once they knew, they chose the cheaper path. They threw me outside." Her voice broke at the last words. She covered her face with her hands. "They told me to die quietly. That's what I was meant to do." The human's fists clenched at his sides. His jaw tightened. He could almost hear the cold words of the doctor again. Not worth the resources. Rage burned in his chest. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "You are not trash. You are not something to be thrown away. I don't care what sickness you have, we will fight it." The vet sighed deeply. "You don't understand," he said. "The cure truly is costly. To keep her alive will drain everything, and the officials will not like that we interfered. They may come here. They may punish us all." The human turned to him sharply. "Let them come. If caring is a crime, then I'll take the punishment." The vet shook his head. "You speak like a fool. But perhaps—" He paused, his voice softer now. "Perhaps the world needs fools." The girl lowered her hands slowly, staring at the human. Her tears still shone, but her eyes carried a spark, something small but fierce. "Why?" she asked again. "Why risk so much for me?" The human looked at her for a long time before answering. His voice was low, steady, filled with something no law could crush. "Because life matters. Yours matters, and I won't let them decide who deserves to live." For a moment, silence filled the room. The hum of the machines, the faint drip of medicine, the shallow sound of her breathing, all of it seemed louder than words. Then the vet's ears twitched. He looked toward the window. Shadows moved outside in the street, figures standing still, watching. The human noticed it too. His eyes narrowed. "Who are they?" The vet's face darkened. "Officials. They must have heard the whispers. They know she is here." The girl's body stiffened. Fear flashed in her eyes. "They'll take me," she whispered. "They'll drag me back to the cold steps and leave me there to die." But the human stood and moved between her and the window. His shoulders squared, his voice unshaken. "Not while I'm here." The vet placed a hand on the human's arm. "You don't know what they can do." "I don't care," the human growled. "If they want her, they'll have to go through me." The girl watched him stunned. In her whole life, no one had stood for her. No one had dared. And now, a stranger from another world was ready to fight against the city itself. Tears rolled down her cheeks again, but this time they were not of sorrow. They were of something new, something she had never felt before. Hope. And outside, in the dim street, the officials whispered among themselves, preparing to step inside. The fight for her life was no longer just against illness. It was against the world that had already given up on her. The knock came like thunder. 3 hard pounds on the glass door of the vet clinic shook the quiet night. The human looked up sharply, his body tense. The alien vet froze in the middle of preparing medicine, his silver hands trembling slightly. The girl on the table clutched the blanket, her eyes wide with fear. Outside, shadows moved under the street lamps. Figures in dark uniforms stood in a row. Their tall helmets gleamed and glowing symbols burned across their chests. Officials. Enforcers of the city's laws. Another knock. Harder this time. Bang, 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 open the door, a voice commanded. Cold deep without a trace of care. The vet swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. If we refuse, they'll break it, he whispered. The human stepped forward, planting himself between the girl and the door. Then let them break it. The vet stared at him in disbelief. You don't understand. These are not guards you can fight. They answer to no one. They decide who is punished. If they see her here, they'll shut me down. They may even arrest you. The human's jaw tightened. If they arrest me, so be it. But they will not take her. The girl's voice was faint, shaking. They'll drag me out. They'll leave me to die again, please. Her eyes pleaded with him, wide and filled with terror. The human turned back to her, his face steady. Not while I'm breathing. The door finally swung open. Cold air rushed inside as 3 officials stepped in. Their armor clanked softly, their glowing eyes scanning the room. The leader, taller than the rest, stopped in front of the human. He looked down at him with disdain. Step aside, human. This is not your concern. The human did not move. She's alive. She's recovering. You're not taking her. The official tilted his head slightly, almost amused. You think you decide? The doctors refused her. That means she is discarded. This is law. Interference is a crime. The human's fists clenched at his sides. Law? His voice grew louder, sharper. What law says a child should die on the street? The official's glowing eyes narrowed. Do not challenge us. You are an outsider. Your kind barely belongs here. Do not make the mistake of acting above your place. The human stepped closer, his voice low but burning. My place is standing in front of her. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. The vet gasped softly. He had never seen anyone speak to officials this way. His heart pounded in his chest, torn between fear and admiration. The officials shifted, their hands moving toward their batons. The room grew heavy, filled with the sharp scent of metal and power. The girl whimpered, pulling the blanket tighter around her thin frame. The leader raised his baton slowly. Do not test us, human. We can end this quickly, but the human did not flinch. His voice cut through the air like steel. Then strike me. But know this, if she dies, it won't just be her blood on the ground. It will be yours too, because I will fight until my last breath. For a moment, silence. The other 2 officials hesitated, their glowing eyes flicking between the human's face and the girl on the table. Outside the door, a small crowd had gathered. Whispers filled the street. Some pressed closer to the window, watching. One of the bystanders muttered softly, just loud enough to carry. He's standing for her. When we did nothing, another added, he's not even one of us. Yet he fights for her. The officials noticed the crowd. The whispers spread like fire. More faces appeared in the windows, eyes wide, waiting. The leader's grip on the baton tightened. His authority was being tested, not by a soldier, not by another official, but by a human outsider. He lowered the baton slowly, his voice filled with venom. You think you've won something? You've won nothing. We will return, and when we do, not even your stubbornness will protect you. With that, he turned sharply. The officials marched out, their armor clanking, their shadows disappearing into the night. The crowd outside erupted into hushed voices. Some looked at the human with awe, others with fear, but all of them had seen what happened. One man had stood against the law, and the law had retreated. Inside, the vet let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. His silver hands shook as he sat down heavily. You are insane, he whispered. Do you realize what you've done? They will not forget this, the human turned back to the girl. She was trembling, tears streaking her cheeks. But there was something else in her eyes now. Not just fear, something brighter, something almost impossible. Trust. You're safe, he told her. For now. The vet buried his face in his hands, groaning. For now, yes. But next time they won't leave without blood. The human sat beside the girl, his hand resting gently on the edge of the table. He looked at her, then at the door, and finally at the watching crowd outside the window. His voice was steady but filled with fire. Then let them come. And outside the whispers grew louder. The city had seen the human's defiance. Some called him reckless. Others called him brave. But all of them knew one truth, something had shifted. The law had spoken. Yet for the first time the law had been challenged, and it was by a human. The night after the confrontation was heavy with silence. The vet locked the doors and dimmed the lights, but his hands shook as he worked. He kept glancing at the window as if expecting armored figures to smash through at any moment. The human, however, did not move from the girl's side. He sat there, calm but sharp-eyed, like a guard refusing to rest. The alien girl's breathing was shallow but steady now. Her skin, once drained of color, showed faint warmth. A glow pulsed under her veins, soft and fragile, like embers fighting against the cold. The human leaned closer, brushing damp strands of hair from her face. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You've already survived more than they wanted." The vet finally spoke, his voice low. "Her illness. I've never seen anyone this far along recover. If she pulls through, it will be called a miracle." The human glanced at him. "Then let's give her that miracle." The vet sighed. "You don't understand. What I've done already would cost me my license. If officials return and find her alive here, they will say we played with forbidden medicine. They'll accuse us both." The human's eyes hardened. "Accuse me then. But don't stop. She's still fighting." The vet stared at him for a long moment, then looked back at the girl. Something in her fragile body, something in the way she still clutched the blanket even while half-conscious, made him hesitate. Finally, he returned to his tools. "Very well. We continue." Days stretched into nights. The vet administered treatments while the human worked like a tireless assistant. He cleaned tools, lifted supplies, even learned how to prepare mixtures of alien herbs. When the girl's fever spiked, he sat beside her, cooling her skin with wet cloths. When her breathing slowed, he leaned close, whispering, urging her to hold on. At times, the vet marveled at him. "You are not trained, yet you work as if this is your calling," he muttered. The human only shook his head. "I'm no healer. I just refuse to watch her fade." On the fourth day, something changed. The girl stirred, opening her eyes fully for the first time. She blinked at the strange lights above her, then turned her gaze to the human sitting at her side. "You're still here," she whispered, her voice hoarse. He gave a small smile. "Of course. Where else would I be?" Tears gathered in her eyes. "Everyone else left. Not me," he replied softly. "Not ever." The vet checked the monitors, his silver hands stiff with disbelief. "Her pulse is stronger. Her cells are repairing. This should not be possible." He turned to the human. "She's responding to the medicine faster than I imagined." The human placed a hand gently over hers. Maybe because for the first time she wasn't abandoned. Outside the clinic, the whispers had grown louder. Crowds now gathered daily, standing across the street. Some spat curses, calling the human reckless, but others waited quietly, hoping to hear news. Rumors spread. Some said the girl was already walking, others said she was glowing like a star. For the officials, the whispers were poison. "If she lives," one muttered behind closed doors, "it will shame us all. It will show the people that law and doctors were wrong." And so they planned their return. Inside, the girl grew stronger each day. She could sit up now, her thin frame trembling but steady. She ate small bites of food that the human fed her carefully, spoon by spoon. Each bite was victory. Each breath was proof she had not been thrown away. One evening, as the lamps flickered low, she looked at him with wide eyes. "Why?" she asked again. "Why do you keep fighting for me?" The human thought for a moment. His answer came quiet but firm. "Because you deserve the chance they stole from you." Her lips trembled. "I don't deserve—" He cut her off, shaking his head. "Don't say that. You are alive. That's enough. That's reason enough." She wept silently, and for the first time her tears were not of despair but of release. The vet stood in the corner, watching. He muttered softly, almost to himself, "I have spent years saving animals because their lives had value. Yet when a child needed me, I almost turned away. And here is a human shaming me with his courage." The human looked up. "It's not courage. It's simply right." The vet lowered his head, ashamed. "Perhaps. But rightness in this world often costs dearly." At that very moment, the sound of boots echoed outside. The crowd hushed. The glow of armored figures appeared again in the street. The girl gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "They've come back." The vet froze, his ears pressed flat with fear. "They will not leave this time." The human stood, his body casting a shadow across her. His voice was calm, iron hard. "Then we show them what a miracle looks like." He reached down, helping the girl sit upright. Her skin glowed faintly in the lamplight, her eyes clearer than before. The weak child they had abandoned was no longer just a dying shadow. She was alive, undeniable. The vet whispered in awe, If they see her like this, they cannot deny it. They cannot, but the human's jaw clenched. They will try, and that is why I will not let them near her. The girl clutched his sleeve, trembling, but her voice carried new strength. Then I'll stand with you. Outside, the armored officials prepared to knock. The crowd leaned closer, breathless with anticipation. Inside, 3 lives braced themselves. 1 vet who had broken the rules, 1 human who refused to step back, and 1 girl who was no longer a dying child but a living miracle. And as the officials raised their fists to strike the door, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The door shook under the officials' fists, bang, bang, bang. The crowd outside fell silent, their eyes fixed on the small clinic. The air was heavy, every breath tight with expectation. Inside, the human stood tall in front of the girl, his fists clenched, his body unshaken. The vet whispered, his voice trembling. They will drag us out this time. There's no way they leave again. But the human's eyes burned with quiet fire. Let them come. They'll see her with their own eyes. And then we'll see if they can still call her worthless. The door swung open with a crash. 3 officials marched in, their armor glowing under the lamps. The leader stepped forward, his gaze sharp as blades. He pointed at the human. Step aside, this ends tonight. But before the human could reply, a sound cut through the room. A soft, steady voice. No, the alien girl said. The officials froze. Their glowing eyes shifted to her. She sat upright on the table, weak but alive, her skin glowing faintly with health. The blanket slipped from her shoulders, showing she was no longer the broken shadow they had abandoned. I was supposed to die, she continued, her voice trembling but clear. You left me to freeze. You told me I wasn't worth the cost. But I'm still here. Because he, she pointed to the human, refused to let me go. The crowd outside pressed closer, their whispers turning into gasps. The officials glanced at each other, unsettled. The human stepped forward, his voice like iron. Look at her, alive, stronger every day. You said she was discarded. You said she wasn't worth saving. Yet here she is, a miracle you tried to bury. The leader's jaw tightened. You disobeyed the law. You defied the system. The human's voice rose, carrying through the open door to the waiting crowd. Then the system is broken. A law that abandons children to die is no law worth following. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Some clenched their fists. For the first time, the people dared to agree. The leader slammed his baton against the floor. Enough, she belongs to no one. She will be taken. The girl stood, shaky but determined, her hand gripping the human's arm for balance. Her voice rang out, stronger now. I belong to myself, and I choose to live. You cannot take that from me. The crowd erupted. Cheers, gasps, shouts filled the street. The officials faltered. Their authority, once unquestioned, now wavered in the face of something undeniable. The people had seen the truth with their own eyes. The vet stepped forward, his silver hands trembling but firm. She lives because we treated her. Call it crime if you want, but it is proof. Life can be saved. Your refusal was nothing but cruelty. The leader glared, but he saw the crowd gathering strength, their whispers growing into chants. If they dragged the girl away now, it would spark something far greater than fear. At last, he lowered his baton. His voice was bitter, sharp. This is not over. But for now, keep your miracle. He turned sharply, his soldiers following, their armor clanking as they disappeared into the night. The crowd burst into cheers. Some shouted the human's name, though they had never known it. Others wept openly, ashamed that they had once walked past the girl without helping. Inside the clinic, silence returned slowly. The girl leaned against the human, her body shaking with relief. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her lips curved into a smile. They didn't take me. The human smiled back, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. They never will. Not while you breathe. The vet slumped into a chair, his face pale but his eyes bright. I thought I would lose everything tonight. Instead, I gained back something I forgot long ago. What's that? The human asked. The vet's voice cracked with emotion. The courage to care. Days turned into weeks. The girl grew stronger, her glow returning fully. She laughed for the first time, a sound that filled the small clinic with warmth. She walked slowly at first, each step shaky, but with the human's steady hand she gained strength. The crowd outside no longer came to whisper. They came to see hope, to see the girl who lived, and in their eyes respect for the human grew. He had done what no one else dared. He had shown them what it meant to value life. The officials never returned, but their silence was not weakness. It was fear. Fear of the truth spreading, fear of more humans standing where laws failed. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the towers, the girl stood at the doorway of the clinic, breathing deeply. She turned to the human, her eyes shining. "You gave me back my life. I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head. "You don't owe me thanks, just live. That's all?" Her lips trembled, but she smiled. "Then I will, for you, for myself." And with that she stepped outside, not as the abandoned child left to die, but as someone reborn. The crowd parted to let her through, their eyes following her every step. They saw not just a miracle, but a message. The human walked beside her, quiet but proud. The vet followed behind, his silver hands clasped, his heart lighter than it had been in years. A new beginning had come, not just for the girl, but for everyone who had once believed compassion was weakness. And in the heart of the city, one truth spread faster than any rumor: humans did not give up.